All right, Landon, hit the disclaimer.
Testosterone really allows them to get to where they should have been all along and then go through the process of putting their life together. And, it can kind of be like playing catch up a little bit, but I think when you've got a good roadmap and good guidance and good strategies and processes that you can go through to expedite that process, it can be a real awakening and kind of like a metamorphosis process where these guys can go through different, lifestyle practices or behavioral modifications or, all these kind of different things that you can do to really cultivate and drive resilience and become, without sounding too cliche, become the best version of yourself possible because you have the endocrine environment that you should have had that you've been lacking all along. So it, it's kind of like if there is a war on masculinity, this is basically picking up the sword. And when guys look at testosterone or TRT as like cheating or anything like that, if I'm at war and there's a weapon on the ground, what, you think I'm not going to pick it up? Like, it's if we're at war, like if we're in a sword fight and there's a shotgun on the ground, I'm picking that thing up. And the idea of not picking it up being more fair is ridiculous. So I think men should be very proud of seeking out TRT. I don't think it's something that should be stigmatized. And it's been really great since 2019. Like when I started working in this field, people were like, what is TRT? What is a health coach? What is all of this stuff? It was something that no one had ever heard of. Whereas now TRT, particularly in the US, has become like a household term. Like most people are familiar with it. It's been amazing to see more awareness grow, and it's been amazing to see the stigma slowly dying off. And I think in the coming years, it's going to be even more mainstream. And I think that's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, even my guys, like in 2022 was whenever I first started seeing my own patients. It was almost secretive. They didn't want people to know. They didn't tell anybody. Now I get much more, word of mouth referrals and everything because now it's much more open. A guy can go to another guy and be like, look, what you're telling me is what I felt 6 months ago. I've started on testosterone and I feel amazing. One of the other things I just kind of want your thoughts on, and I don't think anybody has this info. It's just not, this is looking forward, but like, whenever I started my clinic, I thought my population was going to be like 50 to 70, and that was going to be my bulk of testosterone replacement for guys. But man, I'm getting legitimate, documented hypogonadal guys in their young 30s, their 20s. And so just kind of the epigenetic potential, like what are the offspring going to look like from a person with a 250 testosterone and compared with, the previous 700, we're already getting declining sperm counts and everything. But do you have any insight what your prediction would be this is going to impact our future generations?
Yeah, not good. I think it's scary. I think it is. I think that, my generation, so I was born in 92, and I often, joke with people that my generation are the outcome of what happens when, you wrap everyone in plastic and you massively alter the diet to remove a lot of the micronutrition content. And then those people reproduce. And, looking at the next generation in terms of now my generation reproducing under a lot of these circumstances as well, I mean, it's just going to be the same thing that we're seeing in my generation, but compounded and multiplied. And I think that is a very scary thing in terms of, these poor young souls being, born into vessels which are broken in kind of fundamental ways biologically. And I hope, and I'm optimistic about it because I don't like to be nihilistic, but I'm optimistic that our generation's shifting focus into longevity and health prevention and all of the things that have come out in the last few years and a big shift in people's disposition towards wanting to focus on health and longevity. I would hope that is going to trickle down into the younger generation so that there is more of a focus on fighting back or undoing some of this damage that's being done. So I think without intervention, it's scary, but I also think that humans are pragmatic and humans are strategic problem solvers, and people like us will continue to spearhead this revolution of wanting the world to be a better place for everyone in it. And I think that this damage can be undone. And if it can't be undone at a societal level, it can be undone and corrected at an individual level. And at the end of the day, that's all we can really focus on is what we all individually do for ourselves and for our families and for our children. So I think there is hope in a potentially bleak outcome.
One of the things I've stole from you is like, try and live like, you did whenever you went to your grandma's house, where you wake up early, you play all day till the sun goes down, and then you're so tired all day from playing that you fall asleep basically at uh, when the sun goes down. You eat food that she grew from her garden, or, grandpa shot a deer, and, so everything was as whole food based as possible. And then you have the love of your grandma. So there's a community, it's like, I think that's pretty impactful, and something that I even try with. I have two kids as well, trying to make sure that we can get some of those days in, because I think those days are getting, it's so hard to have a day like that these days, just everybody is so busy. Does, even in the other countries, is everybody still as balls to the wall, go, go, go all day with everybody, with everything?
No, no. Well, over here in Lithuania, I can definitely say that there's a bigger seasonal aspect to it because we're so far north, we get really, extremes. So in winter, it's interesting. Like it's the opposite of what people would think. I mean, there's people who don't really care about what they're doing with their life who tend to just become, alcoholics and overweight during winter. But for the people who are focused on trying to achieve things in their life, winter tends to be the part of the year where people work harder because there's nothing else to do other than become an alcoholic.
All right.
And then in summer, everyone's like, if you want to do Muay Thai or if you want to, have someone come and fix something in your house, they're like, I'm going fishing. Like, leave me alone. Um, so
Yeah.
it's very interesting over here how people are very strongly impacted by the seasons. But look, I think there's kind of two sides to it, since COVID in particular, but, I guess in the modern day and age of the technological revolution, the middle class is being destroyed. And I think a lot of people are overworking and or pushing themselves because they want to be able to hold on to a standard of living and to be able to continue to live a certain lifestyle. That's becoming more and more difficult. But at the same time, I also think that with modern technology and working from home and constant connectivity, you actually have to be disciplined in choosing when to switch on and switch off. And I see two types of maladaptations. I see people who have trouble switching on, who are naturally lazy. And then I see people who have trouble switching off, which would typically be type A people. And, these are people who on the outside are more externally successful. So, people can see this as a good thing, but they often tend to be internally tortured because they can't switch off. And this can be, perpetuated by modern technology. So it is definitely go, go, go everywhere I've seen for a subset of the population. Um, when I come to the US, I'm always impressed by the work ethic of the people who I'm hanging out with. Like they make me feel lazy, which I think is great because it's always good to be surrounded by people who are high performance. But there's that fine line, there's that balance, and one of the things I really focus on in my life, my wife and I and my dog, we live out in like a national park. We live kind of a very secluded lifestyle, and I am very conscious of clocking in, clocking off. I've got a work phone, a personal phone. My work stays at the study. I don't take my work downstairs, and I think it's incredibly important to try your hardest and achieve, but I think it's also very important to recognize that you have to recharge your battery or you'll burn out, and also to spend time with the people that you love and care about. Because otherwise, if you're working your ass off, unless you take time to smell the flowers and actually enjoy what you've built, then you're really just basically a modern slave to a system. So there's a balance there. And I think everyone has areas that they suck at. I think everyone has areas that they maladapt in. And I think recognizing that and bringing your life into balance is one of the harder things that we all have to learn how to.
I'm going to switch to kind of more of a clinical aspect rather than the lifestyle and psych discussion. Well, still kind of psych, but like testosterone, I typically, especially in guys, use as, I would say, like a big lever, you know, say trying to tune a radio station. It's the big one going back and forth. And then we do use thyroid, DHEA. Pregnenolone's probably our least used, but I say those are kind of my like fine tuning knobs, trying to get guys dialed in.